For me, I guess it was more than anything was prayer that led me to religious life. I remember as I was growing up, my dad gave me a vocation prayer card and said that I should pray it every night so that I would know what God was calling me to be when I grew up. And it was, sometimes I feel that God leads us down paths that we never dream of. I always said I was going to get married and have lots of kids. And my sister said that she was going to be a nun. And my sister is married, has 8 beautiful children, and I'm the religious. So it wasn't until my junior year in high school that I even began thinking about becoming a religious. And so I continued praying and asking God to help me to decide, to give me a sign. And I so well remember one evening as I was leaving the chapel at Immaculate Conception, a monastery where I attended the academy, my high school years, and I stopped by, as I was going out, the Pieta in the back of church and telling God if that's what He wanted me to be when I grew up, that I would do so. Then after graduation, the big question was, where? Where was God calling me to? I had, since all my life in grade school, we were always taught by the Benedictine Sisters that would come on Sundays and for vacation school in the summer. So I always felt a call, very attractive to the Benedictine way of life. But I also had a sister and an aunt in the Sister Servants of the Holy Spirit community. And it was missionary order. And I also was considering that, especially a call to the missionaries. And I couldn't decide. And so I just kept praying. And then after graduation, I knew I had to make a decision, but I still was undecided. So I went for a physical, and that's when they found a hole in my heart, which required surgery, which delayed my decision. So after recovery, then I worked for a year and a half as a secretary, and at the same time I kept feeling God nudging me to religious life. And I really felt at least that I must give God the first try. One night I sat down and asked my sister to help me write a letter to Our Lady of Grace Monastery requesting entrance to the community. And some 40 years later, here I am, happy as I can be. So it was Our Lady of Grace Monastery that filled the hole in my heart.
It's pretty simple. I've figured out that God is sneaky, and so was Jo Marie. I first was reacquainted with the Benedictines when Jo Marie came to the CYO, and we worked together, and I'd come and pick her up, or we'd go out, or she'd invite me over. And before I knew it, I was coming more and more, and then she would say, "You want to stay for dinner?" And so I did, and then dinner turned into dinner and prayer, and then dinner and prayer turned into, dinner, prayer, mass. So before I knew it, I was here all the time. And then I started feeling not right when I wasn't here. And I just kept feeling drawn here. So I thought, I need to see these women on a daily basis before I make a decision. So how could I do that? So I told God, I was sitting at Mass at St. Catherine's one Sunday, and I said, "This is sad, but I need a sign, God, and if this is what you want me to do, if this is where you want me to go, because I think you do, then please give me a sign." And the next day, Sister Mary Lou called me to see if I'd be interested in coming and talking to her about a job in the development office. So for me, that was my sign. I knew it was that I should come here, and I came here to work, and I loved what I saw, and I still do. And so I just, worked here for the year before I entered, and then Julianne saw me. She was the vocation director, and she said, "When are we going to talk?" And I said, "About what?" And she said, "About coming and joining us. I said, well, how we can. And she goes, how about today? I said, well, okay. And then she said, you want to go to lunch? I said, well, okay. So we went to lunch, and then we came back, and I went to the bathroom, and by the time I got back, the application was on my desk and a note from Harriet, and I thought, wow, these women are quick. So, but I wanted it to go fast too. So it's a day I've never regretted. I always think the question I ask myself is never, is this where I'm supposed to be, or is this the life I'm supposed to have chosen? If this, was I really called here? What I ask myself is, can I see myself doing anything else? And the answer is always no.
So in early 2010, I was watching the Oprah show after work one day, and there was a segment on what is it like to be a nun. And during the course of this show, I had a physical sensation of warmth and pressure that moved up through my chest and moved me to tears 3 different times. And it was a little confusing and a little scary, and I had to ask myself the question, Dad, are you trying to get my attention? The reason I say that is my father's name was Dominic, and he had passed away 6 months earlier, and the show was about Dominican sisters. Also, one of the sisters in the show described her being called as a feeling that is hard to describe, which is really what I was feeling. And so I got the sense God's trying to get my attention here. So what I did then is I had an appointment with my spiritual director the following week, and when I shared it with him, I was actually moved to tears again. And he said, let's explore this. So we talked about it for a couple of sessions, and then he gave me the names of local vocation directors, and so I met first with the Benedictines in Colorado Springs. I also met with the Franciscans and with the Salesians. I really didn't feel pulled toward the Franciscan charism there or the Salesians, but I definitely felt attracted to and drawn to the Benedictine charism, especially with the emphasis on balance between work, prayer, and leisure. I was very much a work-focused person at the time, and really felt like my life was kind of all about work. I needed something more. As I continued to discern, one of the books that was given me to read was a book by Sister Meg Funk, Tools Matter, which I really enjoyed. I like when you're having this problem, do this. When you're having this problem, do this. And so I was drawn to that, and my spiritual director really encouraged me and wanted me to seek out and look at additional communities. So in doing that, I went on the Vision website and went on their kind of vocation matching program and matched to about 50 communities, and after looking through those, I think I responded back to maybe 10 or 20 to send me more information, and actually Our Lady of Grace was one of those. When I clicked on it, it seemed familiar because I had looked up Sister Meg after reading Tools Matter and linked into Our Lady of Grace. So I called Jennifer, and we were having a come and see weekend in about a month, and so I came out for a come and see weekend and really enjoyed my time here. One kind of curious thing that happened that weekend was the fact that a conversation came up at table of what's your grandmother's name, and my grandmother's names are Grace and Regina, which is kind of interesting. Definitely one of the signs along the way. I also visited a second time, but I was very connected in with the Colorado community, and having lived in Colorado my whole life, I initially couldn't imagine living anywhere other than Colorado. So as I discerned and came to a point where I really felt like I had to take the next step and go deeper into discernment, I initially chose Colorado, the Bennett Hill community. But then I grew restless. I couldn't take the step of getting rid of my house. And I was dreaming about Beech Grove. So I contacted Jennifer and we spoke, and I talked to the Bennett Hill community, and then came back out for another visit.
I mean, community is a coming together. And I've always been a part of a community. I came from a large family, a large extended family, and then the parish and CYO, and everything I was involved with had a community aspect to it. So I was used to being a part of a community. And I always think that, for me, a community is being independently dependent. And what I mean by that is that I'm an individual, and I come together with these other individuals, and we form the community. So our individuality makes what this community is together. And so I'm dependent upon that. So I'm independently dependent upon community. And I just think that the important thing for me for community is that it makes me more responsible. It makes me want to do more, because I see others doing more, and I just want to be a part of it. I want to live it, and I want others to come and live it with us. So it's the backbone of our vocations, that at least for mine it is, that live in community and to be one with so many others.
For me, what community and common life is it's a way that we all support one another in our journey toward God. For me, that's important, to have that support and to be able to support others. When I lived on my own, I didn't have what it was needed to maintain that on my own, because left to my own devices, I would find something else to do. I like the structure within community.
Community life means a great deal to me. I grew up in a big family, and that I loved. Coming together to pray, to eat, and do the workload is very important to me. And it's all these values that I highly treasure.
Prayer and celebration of the Eucharist are foundational to life here at the monastery. Most especially, I like the added musical instrumentals. I find that when organ introductories are played, that it's very uplifting. And I also am very touched when the bass recorder is played. I just find that it pierces my heart, and I'm moved very often.
I deeply believe that it is prayer and the Eucharist that fill our souls. It is through the Eucharist and prayer each day that we are nourished, and that we can go out and be Christ to other people.
Growing up, prayer, the church, was essential to our family. It was the thing we did together. And the two of the biggest things we did together was church and meals together. And that's how I see, prayer and Eucharist. It's a chance for us to come together, to be together as a family, as a community, to pray together, to be one voice, and then to come to the table of God and to share that meal together. It means so much more than just sharing down in the dining room a meal. It's a connectedness. It's at the center of who we are, and sharing that meal together, coming to the table, is what keeps us rooted, and the prayer keeps us rooted, and it just binds us together. That common life, that the common element that we share. We all might pray differently. We all might hear what God says to us differently, yet the practice, being together, and being one voice in our prayer is what I think is strengthening for me and is strengthening for each of us.
I feel that we witness to our life here in service of God through our corporate ministries at the Benedictine, at St. Paul Ministry, and then also all of our sisters that work outside of the monastery.
I think we're very fortunate to have the Benedictine and St. Paul Hermitage and the monastery. I mean, to be a witness to the larger church. It's funny because sometimes I'll see people I know and they'll say, so, how do you like living at the Hermitage? I'll say, well, I'm not at the Hermitage. Or, how do you like living at the Benedictine? Well, I'm not at the Benedictine, So, they still identify us with those ministries. And so I think that speaks a lot about us to the larger church. And just the amount of respect that I have found that people have for us is proof positive to me that the sisters who are out in parishes, that are at their jobs in different ministries, the sisters that are retired, that were out among the working ranks also, were tremendous examples of this life. And the women that are out doing ministry now are tremendous examples and a witness. And they're showing people who we are. And they have shown people who we are. And just the people who still love us and respect us and want to support us is mind-boggling to me sometimes, that so many people can care so much about us. And I think that is just a testimony to the way we have brought the Benedictine charisms to others and shared those charisms and let them be a part of our lives through our hospitality. And so our witness is, I think it was St. Francis, I'm sorry, Benedict, but St. Francis says, go out and teach the Gospels, and if you have to, speak. And I think that's what we do. I think that our actions always speak louder than our words. So we've done well, and we've been a witness for this lifestyle to so many people. We are so blessed.
As we share our gifts and our talents together in community, it makes us whole. And this allows us to go out and to witness to the larger community, to bring Christ to the world.